Hello, I'm Ryan F9 and these are my favorite off-road tires with a DOT stamp. First up, Michelin AC10. This is my favorite tire for multi-purpose off-roading. As in, spending the whole day bombing the trails, ripping fire service roads, climbing sand dunes, even jumping MX courses, and then maybe a spot of pavement on the way back home. See, Michelin made the AC10 very progressive. Now, if you look at the outer layer of knobs here, there's two different layers. So as I lay the tire down into the berm, I'm gonna feel it grip here first and then slide, and then grip again here on the outer layer, hopefully not slide again. Another thing too is that these outer knobs have two different connection patterns. If you look at this one, it's connected only in this direction to its neighboring knob, so it's actually quite prone to fold out and give way. Whereas this knob here has a vertical element to its connection, and so it's going to hold on for quite a bit longer. We get a similar deal on the center belt. Now see, most tires have two alternating middle treads, but the AC10 has three. And if you look down here, we have a single tread knob. That's sort of a paddle structure. It's excellent for scooping the soft terrain and evacuating sand or mud as well. And if we move up from there, we have a slightly smaller middle tread, flanked by two of the inner edge knobs for a total of 4. That's going to be a pretty good surface area for intermediate terrain. And if we skip ahead too, we have a 3-block center tread, flanked by 2 of the edge knobs for a total of 5, which is a lot of surface area, excellent for hard terrain. So the AC10 is a really solid multi-purpose tire. I think it excels most in the intermediate terrain simply because it wears too fast on the hard stuff. You can get maybe 1,000 clicks or less if you really pound the pavement, although you'll go up to 5,000 if you do the proper 90% off-road, 10% on-road split. Now, we're all familiar with cupping, scalloping, feathering, whatever you want to call it. The knobs on an off-road tire get dull on one side first, right? So Michelin designed the AC10 with a reversible tread pattern. You see how these M's are all mirror images of each other? Well, when these M's disappear, I'm actually supposed to flip the entire tire around, and that way I get my sharp leading edges back on the tread knobs. And because this tire is mirrored, it's going to behave exactly the same way as it did before. The AC10 is R-rated, by the way, so those of you with massive kahunas could actually take it up to 170 kilometers an hour. I'm not sure why you'd want to with a dirt tire, to be honest. This guy is predictable on the pavement, but it's predictably bad. Now, that Michelin will run me about $100 for a rear tire, which isn't exactly expensive, but I mean, hell, why not save another $30 and get the Kenda K760 Trackmaster 2? Well, 2 reasons. It wears about 30% quicker, so that negates my savings. And the knobs tend to chunk off a lot more than on the AC10. But I still think the Trackmaster could be a better choice. See, the tread on this tire is super high, so while it does wear down faster, it also tends to hook up better during the first half of this tire's lifespan. I also find that the Trackmaster 2 has slightly better edge grip. I mean, this thing will side hill like it's on rails, and when I do lay it down into a corner, I trust it slightly more than the AC10. Another thing is going to be the sidewall. I mean, this is ridiculously soft on this tire, and I know that's going to bring us to a matter of preference. I mean, on the one hand, yes, the AC10 is more rigid, it'll be way less likely to give you a puncture, and if it does, it'll be way easier to ride home on the flat. But with the Trackmaster 2, I mean, yes, the rubber compound is a bit more prone to punctures, but it's also way easier to change. I could wedge this thing off a rim using a popsicle stick and fix the flat in no time. And that makes a difference between tearing onwards and tiptoeing back home. Now, when it comes to pavement, I probably shouldn't be too hard on the Kenda. I mean, this is a 90-10 tire, it's just not built for the road. But since they did chuck a DOT sticker on here, I have to throw a few punches. For one, these edge knobs are dangerous. I mean, they have almost no lateral support whatsoever, so they're quite prone to folding under. Of course, you shouldn't really be riding this tire all the way out here anyway. But if you do, there's a good chance that you're gonna low side. The other thing is the speed rating. I mean, I haven't seen an M in so long that I had to go look it up. It turns out that 130 kilometers an hour is all this tire is gonna do. I mean, that's public pace on the Trans-Canada Highway, so yikes. Now, what if I want a little more mileage out of my tire? Or maybe I do an 80-20 terrain split, or even pushing to 70-30. Then it better be the Dunlop D606, or Pirelli MT21. Both tires are reasonably well behaved on the roads. They're stable on our highways right up to the top Canadian speed limits, so I'm told. And the other thing is that they carve surprisingly well in twisties. Of course, it's when you get them off-road that these guys really get impressive. Neither of them are AC10s, they're not Trackmaster 2s, but they're pretty darn close. And they hook up very well in soft or hard terrain, sand or mud, rock or roots. So how do I choose between them? Well, let's play top trumps. The D606 lasts longer. Actual mileage depends a lot on your bike's weight, the power, the terrain split that you ride, but no matter what, you can expect this guy to outlast the Pirelli. But the MT21 has always been stickier for me on the pavement. so that's nice. Oddly enough though, I find that the D606 corners better on the road. It's just a little bit more rigid in the way that it holds the line. But the MT21 corners better in the dirt, and by a mile rather than an inch too. The D606 is a sturdier tire though, and a stiffer sidewall, less punctures, all that jazz. I put a 3-inch nail through one of these and I didn't notice for an embarrassingly long amount of time. But on the other hand, when I do get a flat, the MT21 is easier to change. And both tires will hit similar speeds. And the D606 is R rated for 170 km/h cruising, and the MT21 will be either R or P rated depending on the size, so you might have to stop the madness at 150. It's a tie between these two tires, but lucky for me there's an easy way to break it. See, the D606 front tire is notoriously sketchy. I mean, people say it washes out on hard surfaces, it chases ruts all over the trails, and on wet pavement the thing wanders like a drunk uncle. To be honest, my experience has never been quite that bad, but I do prefer the MT21 front tire in the same way that I prefer the D606 rear. Et voila, the perfect couple. Now, I'm going to end with terrain options. For the soft stuff, it's easy. Pirelli's Scorpion Pro is simply the best soft terrain street legal option. It's bumpy and loud on the pavement, it's only rated to slow speeds, and if you do take the thing over shale rock, the tire's going to chunk itself to bits. But in the sand and the slop and the soft terrain, now nothing can beat the Scorpion Pro. But for hard terrain, or if you're contemplating a 50-50 split of pavement and dirt, there are actually a few good choices. Michelin makes the T63, which I really love, and then there's the Desert Race, which is kind of like a professional version of the T63. There's also the Midas E09, which I don't like as much, but it is better if you ride a heavier bike, since the Michelins are more suited to smaller displacement machines. I have the Desert Race with me here, and the T63 has a very similar tread pattern. They're both low, really wide, sturdy blocks that are excellent for giving a very large surface area to make a really large contact patch against hard terrain. That's perfect for eating up the miles. I mean, both this Desert Race and the T63 will last way longer than anything else on my list. There is a slight difference between the two compounds though. This Desert Race version uses the same rubber compound that you'll find in the Dakar Rally, and to put it bluntly, I mean the thing is built like a brick shithouse. It weighs a metric ton, and if you gave me a hammer and a nail, I'd actually have a hard time putting a hole through here. And the rubber compound as well is specially designed to stay sturdy in extreme temperatures, which comes in handy when you're racing across the Sahara Desert. The regular T63 has a more average rubber, which is why it'll cost you $100 compared to the $230 for this beast. Now I ordered the Desert Race for this video because it's freaking cool and I wanted to play with it, but to be honest, if I were to do it again, I would just buy the T63. I mean, they both work equally well on and off road, and the mileage gains from this Desert Race are not nearly equivalent to the 130% jump in price. It's more like a 30% mileage increase with this tire. The only reason I would actually buy a Desert Race is if I was doing something like the Dempster Highway. You know, very long mileage, consistently hard terrain, and an extremely inconvenient place to get a flat. In that case, the added puncture protection from this one, it might be worth it. And that's it for my favorite street legal off-road tires. Thank you guys very much for watching.